So I'll start my presentation from who Linda really is. I'm a former trade unionist. I've always been an opinionated person. Some have said I'm wayward. And you know what I mean? So when I started looking for a career after high school, my parents wanted me to be a doctor. I was good at sciences. I wanted to be a lawyer. I only went to varsity for 1 week, by the way, and I dropped out. Why did I drop out? I felt like I was being colonized. I felt like a part of me was being taken away from me. And to date, I don't have a degree, I don't need one, and I've got my reasons, which I'll speak about in another platform. So basically after that, I decided to go into IT. I love challenging things, and I'm a computer technician by profession. And when I got into IT, that was in 2000, 2001, I was still very young. IT was still very new in Zimbabwe. It was a male-dominated field. I found it hard to work in the technicians' rooms. The men always wanted to supervise my work. Yet we were all technicians. That is where it all started. We have gone to the same school. We've got the same qualifications. But when we get to the real work, the boys want to supervise me. And it became a contentious issue. Sometimes when there were call-outs, they would rather have the men go to the call-outs and not me. And when I started challenging those things, my former boss started saying, until I changed jobs, went to another company. And that's when I started realizing that labor injustice is real. Exploitation at the workplace is real. That is when I started my trade unionism career. I started fighting for labor justice at the workplace, equal opportunities, where if I'm supposed to do something in my job, the man should not be given first preference. And it was actually a struggle, and I've been fired 5 times in my life until I said I'm no longer working. So I eventually left and went to the National Railways of Zimbabwe, where I joined in the computer department. And when I saw an advert of train drivers, I had applied for it. And it was actually a struggle to get that job. They started talking about the gender roles. You are a woman, you get pregnant, trains are driven in the evening, are you going to be able to work at night? And I said, when I applied, I'd taken all those things into consideration. And when I got there were a lot of injustices there. I started challenging them, and it became an issue again. So what I realized as a trade unionist is that there are a lot of injustices in labor. And in as much as people term that they are very learned in Zimbabwe, they cannot even fight for their rights. And that is a sad reality about Zimbabweans. And I took it upon myself to fight labor injustice to date, which I continue to do. I offer labor consultancy, and I've won a lot of cases with the people that I've represented. So from labor, after I was a victim of the Zuma judgment, in 2015, I got fired by the Zuma judgment. I was the first person to get fired at the National Railways of Zimbabwe. They even wrote in the Chronicle first page that NRZ finally fires the militant and radical. After that, I went into activism. I was trying to fight the injustices in Zimbabwe that were happening in our communities. I got arrested several times, even got locked up at Chikurubi Maximum Prison after I led a demonstration at the female prison because of the injustices that I found happening there in the female prison. After that, I sat down and said to myself, to what point am I going to just keep on talking, keep on analyzing the problems that we're having in our country? Why don't I start using the talents that I have to make a meaningful difference for the people of Zimbabwe? That is when I decided to join active politics. At that time, Tendai Biti and company had just left MDC. I had previously left MDC in 2008 because I thought the late Morgan Richard Changirai had let us down and deceived us as the people who followed him. So when the Tendai Bitis came out, speaking the same language that had made me leave MDC, I thought, now this is where I belong. I joined the renewal team, which later became the PDP. I was in the standing committee. I was the secretary for recruitment and mobilization. But in that very same standing committee, I think we were only 3 women. And the women there, the older women, this is one struggle that a lot of people don't know. The older women, seasoned women in politics, are the ones who stepped down on the young women in politics. They didn't want me there. When we're speaking together, we would agree and actually formulate strategies on what we want to do. But when they went to sit with the big boys, they'll be saying, Linda, they will stand in committee. So it was also a struggle there where people felt I was taking their space, and where the leaders in the party themselves thought that I was too talkative and I was challenging them because they never thought that a younger person could actually come up with ideas that could work, and they did not want to be challenged. And what I learned during that time is that there's too much of demigodism in our politics. The political party leader doesn't get challenged. You don't tell the president of a political party that you are wrong. And that has been the tragedy of Zimbabwe. That has been the tragedy of the type of politics we've been having in our country. And I'm an opinionated person. I don't care who you are. Even the late GM of NRZ, Mike Karakadzai, knew that if I was pissed off, I would just walk into his office and tell him, Mike, you're wrong. And he would tell me, no, I'm a Commodore, you know? So what I'm saying is, I had problems with Tendai Biti. He felt that I was challenging his authority. I eventually left PDP, decided to run as an independent candidate. That was in 2017. And then I was lured back to the MDC. No, come back to the party. I went back to the party, started the campaign for Nelson Chamisa's presidency, and later on Nelson Chamisa dumped me and said, my funders don't like you. Then I eventually went with Dr. Thokozani Kupe. When I was with Dr. Thokozani Kupe, I also learned that one of the downfalls of women is surrounding yourself with men. They become your advisors, but you've got the men. And the very same men that will be in the political party, when they feel challenged, they start poking. Let's get rid of Linda. And they eventually fired me. And when they fired me, Thokozani Kupe was history, because I was a support pillar. I was making her name stand out. I was the spokesperson of MDC. But because of misogyny, because of patriarchal dominance, my deputy spokesperson had to create a lot of stories to remove me from the matrix so that Dr. Thokozani Kupe's media will fall down, because I was naturally there for the media and actually amplifying what MDCT was doing. So you'll find that in our political journey as women, we face a lot of challenges. Even the men within the party will be fighting us. Will be fighting us through the other people in the party, because the men in politics in our country don't feel that women are capable leaders. They'll come and surround you, and you think that they want you or they love you, but they'll be actually working against you to destroy you and to defeat you. And later on, after I got fired, that is when I converged with former trade unionists after the realization that we no longer had a party that was representing the interests of labor. We formed Labour Economists and African Democrats with a view that we have to restore the dignity of all workers in our country. We have to restore the dignity of all pensioners. We have to ensure labor justice becomes a reality. Why did we take that path? We realized that the leadership in ZANU-PF is leadership that is led by capitalists, business people who do not care about the plight of the workers and ordinary people in Zimbabwe. That is the same with the leadership in the opposition. We've got leadership of capitalists as well, businessmen, lawyers, people who are looking out for self and not particularly looking at the interests of the people. We decided to focus on the economy because everyone who is in top leadership right now is focusing on what will get into their pockets and not what will get into the pockets of the ordinary Zimbabwean. We decided to take the Pan-African approach after the realization that Zimbabwe is not progressing because we are using a governance system that was adopted in 1980, a governance system that is alien to us, a governance system that is Eurocentric, a governance system which you do not even understand, which is oppressive, suppressive, and repressive. We decided to sit around with like-minded people. I'm also the third vice president of Pan-African Convergence, a Pan-African organization. We are in the process of coming up with an Afrocentric governance system that also works for the whole of Africa, which governments can adopt if they want to. Because we realize that we are always at the mercy of the West. We are always trying to do things to be recognized by the West. When African countries write their budgets, they run with them to the Bretton Woods institutions. Who is the Bretton Woods institutions in Zimbabwe? Who is World Bank, IMF, and everything else in Africa? They're the ones who give us the economic policies that do not work for us, that destroy us, and later on they tell us that African people cannot run their own economies. Zimbabwe started going down through ESA, a policy that were given by the Bretton Woods institutions. Don't we have economists? We've got so many people with PhDs, but they are still going on with the same bookish economic theories that they learned. They've never even tried to come up with their own economic theories that actually work for Africa, that actually work for our own country. So we are a party that believes in homegrown solutions. We are believing that we all have the solutions in our different spaces, and that is why we have not been going out to go and take those people who think that they've arrived. We have been reaching out and recruiting and mobilizing to those people who are fresh, with fresh ideas, who actually have a vision of a Zimbabwe that they want. A new Zimbabwe that will be built by solid ideas that are coming from the grassroots. We believe in local governance. We believe that development starts at what level? Development does not happen at the presidium. The presidium is only there to manage what is being done at the grassroots. And the grassroots happens at local governance. And as such, this year we're going to be primarily focusing on local governance, and we're going to field 1,958 councillors and only 20 MPs. We are not concerned about the legislative framework right now. We want to develop Zimbabwe, and Zimbabwe will be developed by local councillors, by rural authorities, and that is what we're focused on. And we're going to make sure that all our candidates, if not for the issue that we also have to respect gender balance, we're going to make them all women, because most parties do not want to field women. But we're going to try and strike a balance as a party that believes in constitutionalism and Section 17 to have it 50-50. But if that's not the case, we're going to make sure that we've got more women than men. So this is the journey that I've walked. It's not easy. We have had financial challenges because our politics in Zimbabwe is highly monetized. When you get somewhere, people are saying, Murukuti Pamari, Moti Pamari, then you ask them, so you want money to change your livelihood. You want a beer for your life to change. People don't understand why they vote. So there are a lot of challenges that we face because of the systematic type of monetized politics that actually was created to elbow out smaller parties or upcoming parties because they have to bring in this money aspect. As if that's not enough, the two main parties we have in Zimbabwe actually systematically elbowed out other political parties by agreeing that any political party that does not have 5% representation in parliament does not get political finances. That is why political finances are only available for parties that have got 5% and above political representation in parliament. And now those who actually drafted that didn't know that at some point in life they're going to split. Now the other splitting group is now crying foul that we are not getting political finances money because they've got nice 5% representation in parliament. So I think some of the decisions that we made in the process of wanting to elbow other people out will always come and haunt us. So going forward, we believe that challenges that are facing women are universal. They are not relegated to a certain political party or to a certain grouping of people. And I think it's time that women start speaking with one voice, being their sister's keeper, and ensuring that we gravitate towards a women's revolution. And I think one of the biggest challenges we face as women is this over-amplification of gender roles. Who doesn't have gender roles? When people want to start talking about politics, they start saying, women cannot be out during the night, women cannot be doing this, women cannot be doing that. And then I've been asking myself, politics is just as good as work. There are journalists here. If you're going to have to go and write a story at a dinner gala at State House in the evening, won't you go because you've got gender roles? Won't you go to work? Now I'm asking a question. You'll go. But when it comes to politics, I had this the past 2 days. The gender roles, interviews will happen in the evening, this and that. This is affecting women political participation in politics. We are walking into the same trap that has been created by the patriarchal dominant leaders that are there in men and women and the misogynists who want to elbow women out of politics, that you are mothers, you're supposed to be home, and they want you to view politics as if it's not work as well. When there's a trip outside, there's a conference in Geneva, will you not go, Patience? But when it comes to politics, gender roles, who will take care of your children? What will you be doing outside? Please, let's stop this gender role amplification nonsense when it comes to politics. We are at work. We are doing our work for the country. We cannot continue this thing that women cannot do politics because they have to be going around. What about those who work going around? Those who are feeding people, who are doing etc., etc. They are doing their jobs. Allow us to participate in politics without stereotyping. We are tired of this gender roles nonsense. I was saying to a lot of my members, you can't say that I have to go and pick up children at school because I've got a school run. Yes, it is your responsibility in your marriage. But when you've got something pressing, I think you can tell your husband today that, sweetheart, I've got a commitment at this particular time. Please, can you go and pick up the kids? Because if your husband also does not understand what you're doing, then it means that you're not on the same page. A house divided against itself will not stand. So I think we need to start plucking out some of these things that we constantly speak about and say, this is what is affecting women participation in politics. If it is not affecting you as a director, you as a journalist, you as a lawyer, why do you think it will affect us as women politicians? We need to stop amplifying some of these things that we constantly write about, that constantly pull us down as women politicians. We need to be viewed as equals in politics. A man and a woman are supposed to have equal opportunities. And we're tired of the stereotyping. And the stereotyping is also coming from media. Please stop these gender roles things. We are tired about it. Thank you.